It is time for another season of Inside Rangers Football. I'm your host, Brant Freeman, alongside me, Smithson Valley head coach Larry Hill. Coach, another season of Inside Rangers Football. Always a great outlet to talk about your program.
Yeah, we enjoy doing that. I know our community and players look forward to it, not only the football season, but this show and the Rangers Network and all that it's become. And, you know, the excitement just keeps getting bigger each year.
Well, speaking of each year, this is now year 25 coming up for you at Smithson Valley. Such a rewarding experience over the past 2+ decades. How rewarding has it been for you?
Well, you know, it's funny. I never took this job to stay here 25 years. I tell people all the time I took the job hoping to be able to be a part of a turnaround and turn it around enough to where somebody might notice and we could get a big-time job from here. That good Lord has a way of changing things. You know, it basically turned this job into a big-time job. So kind of anchored in and stayed. And like you said, it's year 25.
Well, let's look back at year 24 for you. The 2016 season team finished 8-3. You made the second round of the postseason. When you summarize the 2016 year, what comes to mind?
Well, you know, just the stiffness of the competition for one thing. You know, we of course played a bunch of playoff teams. Of course, Round Rock in the preseason was a semifinalist. Of course, Steele was a state finalist. Us and Judson advanced a while, and you know, just the folks that those guys had to play to get where they went, and losing to an eventual state champion in kind of a back and forth game. You know, that they pulled away a little bit in the fourth quarter and then went on really to romp the next 4 weeks to win a state championship. So I think our guys competed against top caliber competition, competed well, beat several of those teams, very competitive throughout the year, great leadership, great group of kids. And, you know, really laid a great foundation for this year's team because our guys that are coming back saw firsthand how senior class is supposed to handle things.
Although we do know that we'll see a handful of new faces on the team this season. But before we get into who those players will be, I do want to recognize the career of Josh Atkins, a quarterback for you. 3-year starter, started 36 games. He was responsible for nearly 8,000 yards of total offense and over 100 touchdowns in his career. Just phenomenal numbers. Great person as well. You coached some great quarterbacks at Smithson Valley. What made his career so memorable?
Well, you know, I think the fact that he took the reins at, you know, such an early age, you know, I think we've only had one other sophomore starter before, but just really took control, you know, never was intimidated, never fazed, never had a bad day of practice, never wasn't where he's supposed to be doing what he's supposed to do, that and with his arm and his running skills. You put all that together, that's rare that you can have that all in one package.
Big shoes to fill. Who's getting that chance this year?
Well, it looks like it'd be Levi Williams, junior, up from the junior varsity. He traveled with us in the playoffs. In fact, played in one of the playoff games. So got a lot of potential. Got a little height, size, got a big arm, can run well, and he's following a tough act. He knows that, and he's like most guys that are new to the varsity. He's a little green, but he has a lot of potential. We're looking forward and excited to see what he can do.
Well, quarterback isn't the only position you're having to fill a void from last year. You look at the offensive line, you had 5 seniors starting up front for you a year ago. How do you go about replacing what they brought to the table?
Well, you don't. You know, you bring in, we're going to be pretty top-heavy with seniors this year. You know, guys who've waited their turn, program guys, maybe were in a backup role a year ago or on the JV, and every year's a little different there. But we're excited about them. We're a little bigger up front maybe than we've been. We've got some leadership in there, some guys that are really bonding together. They've looked really good so far in the preseason. So we'll see how that plays out, but we're excited about it.
So while you have your losses on offense, you do have quite a few players back on defense. By my count, 7 starters are back for you defensively. 3/4 of the secondary is back as well, to include Trevon Merrick-Woodard, who's such a special playmaker at the cornerback position. How valuable is that experience to have on defense?
Well, you know, typically defenses are ahead of offenses early in the year. And, you know, while that may or may not bode well for our offense as we begin the year, you know, we'd like to think we'll have a few less wide eyes out there on defense. You mentioned Trayvon. Mason Pierce, the other cornerback, is back. Ricky Rios was back at safety. He's actually going to move over to offense to fill some inexperienced void that we have there. C.J. Keeler and Alex Flores up front. And of course, you know, Jacob Zuber at linebacker, Will Gibbons at linebacker. Those are guys that played a bunch a year ago or started in Zuber's case. So we've got a few more back there than normal, and you know, hopefully that can carry us in the early part of the year.
You know, something I learned when talking to you for the first time way back in the mid-2000s was that if you're going to talk to Coach Hill about Ranger football, you better discuss special teams. How are they lining up heading into the 2017 season?
Well, you know, we have two-year letterman, the kicker, Mason Reed, was a really fine kicker for us a year ago, not just on extra points and field goals, but real instrumental with his kickoffs of pinning opponents deep and giving them a long field. He's back for 2 more years, so we're excited about that. John Beck is a junior up off the JV. He's going to handle all of our deep snapping chores, which almost no one talks about. But he's outstanding. And we're excited, you know, to see what he has brought to that, because our punt times and our extra point snap to kick times have really shrunk since John's been there. On the punting end, Brant Anderson, who punted a little bit for us a year ago, looks like he's going to be that guy for us, and he brings a big leg too. We've got a returner that's not bad.
No, he's pretty good.
Yeah, he's not bad. So we've got to alter our schemes a little bit, because we anticipate that, you know, there might be some people kicking the ball away from him.
About to say, I think the over-under on actual kicks he gets to return is 3 this year.
Well, we're going to try to do some things to increase that, so I may take that bet. But special teams and defense need to carry us early on while we get some of the green out of our offense.
Well, that's a look at the Rangers heading into the 2017 season. We'll take a break in our show. When we come back, we'll talk more about their opponents, including the opener Friday at Pflugerville-Hendrickson. This is Inside Rangers Football, and we'll be right back.
If you bank at Frost, we'll help keep your money safe. If you use your Frost debit card, the chip will make it more secure. If there's a suspicious transaction on your card, you'll get an alert. If you do, you can freeze your card with the Frost app. If you lose your phone, Touch ID login will help keep the app secure. Of course, if all you need is help from people who care, we've got that too.
Where Zaxby's is from. Some like it classic. Some like it saucy. For others, it's gotta be crispy. But everyone loves the flavor that brings us together. And whether you like it spicy or old school, you'll like it even more. Because Zaxby's 5 fan favorites are now just $5.99 each. Friends, family, flavor. Zaxby's.
Welcome back to Inside Rangers Football. Smithson Valley will open up the 2017 season this Friday at Pflugerville-Hendrickson. A look at the entire schedule for the Rangers, and we start with non-district play. And Coach, you saw these 3 teams last year, albeit not much of Hendrickson, but after them, Austin Anderson, and then you'll play at Round Rock High for the second time in 2 years. So we didn't know a whole lot about these opponents going into last season. You don't play Austin area schools that much. After seeing them a year ago, what do you know about them now?
Well, Hendrickson's very talented. You know, they're used to deep playoff runs, but a year ago they were real inexperienced. They had 13 sophomores on the varsity, started 12 of them. Slipped into the playoffs, but didn't advance as far as they normally do. But they're going to reap the benefits from that this year. They've got a very experienced team, returned a lot of starters, a lot of D1 caliber type players. So, and of course, we're going to play up there in their brand new stadium and first game of the year. So, you know, we're kind of going into rough waters there to start the season. You know, the Anderson game, they jumped out on us quick, and then we just kind of got going in the second and third quarter, and it kind of imploded for them. But I know that they feel like they're going to be much better. Coach Rhodes' third year there. And then, of course, Round Rock, you know, was a regional finalist. They were a quarterfinalist, and I think the Woodlands finally eliminated them in the 4th round, and we had a dogfight with them up there. Got some penalties, turned the ball over a few times, and lost a close game. So they've got a bunch of kids back, so it'll be another one of those type of games in the third and last non-district game.
As we know, these games don't really count towards the standings, but they do hold their own weight, getting you ready for 27 6A play. Just how valuable are these 3 opportunities?
Well, they're real valuable. You only get 3, and I really thought it hurt us a year ago only getting 2. If you recall, the first one we got lightninged out after, 7-8 snaps. And so I thought that hurt us. particularly when you consider the strength of our district and how
Yeah.
ready you have to be. Of course, we opened and will open with Steele. And so mid-September, you've got to be ready to go. And these will be good tests for us. And you hope to be successful. Hope to gain enough confidence to be ready for the meat grinder that is 27-6A.
Getting more into the district, I look back at the years that you've been coaching at Smithson Valley. You've been a part of so many tough districts. I remember back in the day in the NAISD district with the likes of Reagan and Madison and that group. But you look at what you've been in now, this is your second straight year in 27-6A, but really this is the fourth year in a row in this district with this makeup of teams, to include Steele, Judson, New Braunfels. How would you rate the level of competition within this district?
Well, I don't know that any district in the state can boast that many quality teams. Obviously, there's some good football teams out there. We ran into Lake Travis, who beat us and then went on to win the state championship. So certainly there's some other good teams in the region. But to have 4, 5, 6 of them stacked in the same league, I'm not sure anybody statewide can say that. And it's very unnerving. If you are fortunate enough to make the playoffs, you do feel fortunate, and you also feel prepped and ready for the playoffs because you've been kind of been forced to play that caliber of competition for 7 straight weeks.
Getting back to the opener this Friday against the Hawks at Pflugerville-Hendrickson, what are your expectations for this opener? You and I were discussing earlier about working in new players at the varsity level. Are growing pains to be expected this first game?
Well, they're not to be expected by me. Outsiders probably think so, but it's always been my experience, no matter how many returners you do or don't have, most early season games are lost more than they're won. If you're not turning the ball over, if you're not being heavily penalized, if you're playing well in the kicking game, you're going to have a good chance to win because the odds of both teams doing that are pretty remote. Both teams are liable to make a lot of mistakes. I think the one that makes the fewest mistakes has the best chance to win, unless it's just a physical mismatch. I hope that's not the case here.
Well, Coach, good luck Friday night.
Thank you, Brant.
Again, Smithson Valley opens up the 2017 season this Friday on the road against Pflugerville-Hendrickson. We'll have the live coverage here for you on RangersNetwork.com. Kickoff is at 7:30. For Coach Hill, I'm Brant Freeman. This has been Inside Rangers Football. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you again next week.